Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today I'm going to be unboxing 3 Middle Eastern fragrances from the house of Rue Broca. So let's jump into it. Alright, so we are back with another unboxing first impressions video of 3 new Middle Eastern fragrances from the house of Rue Broca. Really excited about this one. I have never tried anything from the Rue Broca line. As far as I understand, they are a sister company to Afnan, and a bunch of you have suggested that I check them out, including Rue Broca's Theoreme, which is one of the ones I'm featuring in today's video. So really excited about this one. Picked these all up from fragrancecanada.ca, so I'll have links down in the description if you decide you want to check any of these out. So let's just quit screwing around and let's get into it. All right, so first up, we're going with Rue Broca's Vanguard Command. Now I picked this up for $20 US, and there's like literally nothing about this online. I couldn't find any information about this, so I am truly going in and blind on this one. So let's jump in, see what we're dealing with. All right, so there we have the box presentation of Vanguard Command. Pretty straightforward cardboard box, has a nice kind of silver band around it, all the necessaries on the back, but just your plain cardboard box. Let's see what the bottle looks like. All right, there we have the bottle presentation for Vanguard Command. Kind of a unique shape to this. I do like, it's just a rectangular bottle for the most part. It does have kind of a cheap plastic, kind of like faux leather feel to it on the side there. Has the Rue Broca emblem icon logo right up top there. But I do like this cap. It's kind of an interesting cap to it, but it is a very lightweight, cheap plastic. And the atomizer on this, yeah, it's a little sketchy, but it will get the job done. But what does this smell like? All right, so right out the gate, just smelling this in the air from testing that atomizer, one of the main things I'm picking up right now is a very leathery style of saffron with a little bit of citrus and a little bit of spice that's in the air right now. It's a bit of a light leather, and it has that kind of like peanutty accord that I pick up from some saffron-y styles of leather right now, but overall a nice, light, enjoyable leather, and it's quite nice. So let's get this on paper, see what we're dealing with. Yeah, so as I mentioned, the more dominant note right now that's coming through is that leathery style of saffron. Not an overly aggressive style of leather. It does have this kind of tart citrus that's working its way through. It has a little bit of woods that's in there. It has this fresh, spicy style of cardamom that's in there. A little touch of sweetness that's working its way through. But for the most part, this is a very saffron-forward fragrance. There is a little bit of a greenness to this, a little bit of aromatics. There's kind of a clean leathery vibe going on to this. So it's not like a fancy leather, but there's this cleanness, this aromatic nature that's in there, mixing with that citrusy style of saffron with that little bit of spice that's mixed in there. So it has a little bit of a lighter, a little bit more uplifting, kind of brighter style of leather at this moment. So as this is opening up, there are some more woods that are coming forward. It's got this bit of like a grassy, not quite smoky, but a bit of a dry style of vetiver that's coming through. And there is a little whisper kiss of oud that's kind of in the back. Not a very dominant one, but I can detect a tiny bit of oud that's kind of trying to mix its way in there with that kind of green, spicy leather that's moving its way through. The citruses have died down quite a bit from the initial opening, so that tartness that was there has been kind of more replaced with more of that green, fresh, spicy aspect, and it still has that kind of clean, aromatic feel going on to it. But that again is also dying off a little bit more. It's more woods, a little kiss of that oud, but it's still a very saffron, leathery style of fragrance right now. Yeah, this is pretty nice. I do like the spices that are kind of starting to unfold a little bit here, mixing with the woods that are in here. It's got a very pleasant, woody, spicy sort of vibe going on to us, and that greenish leather vibe as well is mixing in with it quite well. So it's quite a nice fragrance right now. It's a little light off the paper. This isn't blasting out the room. This isn't really pushing off the paper right now, but overall, it's pretty decent fragrance in this opening. So let's skip to the dry down, see how this unfolds. All right, so we are back with the dry down of Rue Broca Vanguard Command. It's been about an hour, let this settle down, do its own thing. Now that this is in the dry down, it's really settled into that fresh, spicy, green style of leather, but it's got this lightness to it that I quite enjoy, like almost like a freshness to it as well, so it's not like a very heavy style of leather. The leather accord in this did remind me of something, and if anyone is familiar with the Lattafa's Anna Abiyed leather, very similar style of leather to it. They are different fragrances in a sense. I find this one to be just a little bit lighter, a little bit fresher than that one, but it's the same style of leather that kind of comes through. So it has, like I said, I always get this kind of peanutty accord that comes from certain styles of saffron, some leathery styles of saffron. And that's what I'm getting from this, but a little bit more green, a little bit more freshness that comes through with that fresh spiciness. The oud that I had detected in this has faded back quite a bit. It is, like I said, just very much a leather style of fragrance at this point with that freshness. So quite nice. It's not a very powerful fragrance, so I'm gonna have to get this on skin and see how it performs. I have my doubts that this is gonna be a really high performing fragrance at this point, because like I said, this is not pushing off the paper. It didn't really fill the room up very much when I did spray this in the air. So we'll have to wait and see. I'll get this on skin, see how it performs, have this included in a list or do a full-on review if you guys want me to. Comment down below if you'd like to see that. But overall, a very pleasant fragrance, very well blended. It is, again, I enjoy this style of leather fragrance that has that freshness to it and that greenness to it. So overall, pretty happy with this one. That's Rue Broca's Vanguard Command. All right, so next up, we're going with Rue Broca's Are You Serious? I scooped this sucker up for $23 at Fragrance Canada, and I did get the note breakdown off the Rue Broca website, and I have a feeling I know what this smells like, but you don't know until you know, so let's just jump right into this, figure it out. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Rue Broca's Are You Serious? Kind of a nice silver metallic sort of band going across. It does have some poetry written on the side there. I'm not going to bore you guys. It's not a poetry reading. This is a fragrance review. All the necessaries on the back, and it does have a slide out deal going with this, revealing our bottle. This is a very flimsy cardboard here, so I gotta be careful. And there's our bottle presentation. That's kind of unique. I don't think I've really seen one quite like that. So this does have kind of like, I don't know, a lasered out Are You Serious? If the camera can pick that up, sort of vibe going on to it. So that is an interesting cap, and it is kind of a half circle that's going on there, and some more poetry on the front there. And the cap on this, still a very lightweight, cheap style of plastic, so this could easily break if you're not careful with it. And the atomizer on this sucker, pretty fat sprays, but yeah, definitely better than the last one. Will get the job done. What does this smell like? All right, so right off the jump, smelling this in the air, my suspicions were true. What I'm picking up right away is some bergamot, little touch of some fruity apple, some black currant, and some birch. So we have ourselves a Creed Aventus, Club de Nuit Intense Man style of dupe clone going on here. But let's get this on paper, see if there's any nuances to this, how this kind of stacks up against some of those other ones. Yeah, so in this initial opening, very bergamot forward, has that black currant, so it has that tart citrus sharpness to it. Has a little bit of that fruity sweetness, that black currant, that undeniable black currant note that comes through. A little bit of the birchiness is in the background right now. It hasn't fully come through yet. It's very much the citrus black currant. Little tiny touch of some like additional fruity sweetness, but it's mostly the black currant and bergamot at this second. As this is opening up a little bit more, it is starting to take on a little bit of kind of some ambery fuzziness to it, a little bit of muskiness to it, and then there is a little bit of floral hints coming through. So it's adding a little bit of softness that's kind of contrasting against that tart sharp citrus, as well as some of that fuzzy dry texture that's coming through from that base with that little bit of musk. So definitely has some texture, definitely has some personality, but it is still very much in that Creed Aventus, Club de Nuit Intense Man style of clone and dupe, that style of DNA. There is a little bit of that birch coming through. I smelt it a little bit more in the air, but it doesn't quite have that same level of kind of smokiness that I was hoping for. Like, there are some dupes and some clones out there that has a really nice kind of smoky birch that works its way through. This is not one of them at this very moment. The birch is a little bit more subdued. It does add that woodiness to it. It does have that signature birch sort of vibe going on to it, but it doesn't have that right level of smokiness that I kind of like. It's still very much a citrus, black currant, fuzzy, ambery sort of vibe going on to it. A little bit of kind of rosy jasmine working in, again, soft florals, just toning things down quite a bit. But not the birch I was hoping for, but let's skip to the dry down, see how this kind of unfolds, and we'll go from there. All right, so we are back with the dry down of Rue Broca's Are You Serious? Been just over an hour, let this settle down, do its own thing. It hasn't changed a whole lot. I have found this has gotten a little bit more of that kind of, that fuzziness, that ambery sweetness that's kind of come through. It has more of that vibe, but the birch has actually come through just a little bit more, but it's still not as heavy as a birch that I was kind of hoping for. I didn't know if I was anticipating that, but it definitely has that again, Creed Aventus, Club de Nuit Intense Man style of DNA, but it's a little bit sweeter. It doesn't quite have that same style of bite to it that those other ones do. It doesn't have that sharpness that I quite enjoy that. It doesn't have that kind of an almost uplifting sort of vibe that goes on to it with those citruses, the birch that comes through. This is more on the kind of that fuzzy, warm, sweet style of that DNA. with just enough birch and some woodiness, some amberiness to come through to just give it that masculine foundation to it. So it's a nice fragrance. It's definitely got its qualities. It definitely has that DNA. But overall, I was just hoping for maybe a little bit more of that birchiness to come through and a little bit less sweetness. But overall, it's a very well blended fragrance. The quality on this is quite nice, and I think this will perform fairly well. We'll get this on skin, see how it does, but it's pushing off fairly good. This is the one I could smell probably the most in the room when I did initially spray it. So I think performance will be okay on this one, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll be wearing this a few times. Have it included in a few lists. Probably do a full review of this at some point if you guys want. So again, comment down below if you want to see a full review on this. But overall, very nice fragrance, and for 23 bucks, I think it's pretty good for that style of DNA. That's Rue Broca's Are You Serious? All right, last, hopefully not least, we got Rue Broca's Theoreme. Now let's scoop this bad boy up for $23 at Fragrance Canada, and this has been highly requested. I get lots of questions about this one, how it compares in the Bulgari Tiger clone genre of fragrances. So there's Al Khayyam Silver from Lattafa Pride, and there's also Afnan's Tarathi Blue, and I get a lot of questions on how this one stacks up against those other two. So we are going to find out today how this one stacks up. So let's just dig in. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Theoreme. Pretty straightforward design on this. It is a really nice thick cardboard box on this, and it is a slide off case like that, revealing our bottle sitting in there. It's not too snug, so I'm putting my fingers there so it doesn't fall out. It does have, you know, a bit of a podium in there, but this is a plastic. This isn't like a fuzzy styrofoam or anything like that, so it's a little sketchy. It doesn't really hold your bottle in all that well. And here we have the bottle presentation for Theoreme. So it's got this kind of teardrop shape to it. Pretty straightforward, a little bit of texture on the cap on this, a little bit heavier than the other ones, so this does have a little bit more weight to it, but it still kind of has a cheap plasticky feel with this band that goes around it. And the atomizer on this sucker, ooh, nice fat sprays. It's a little sketchy, but overall, pretty good atomizer, will get the job done. But what does this smell like? So right off the jump, just smelling this in the air, this is undeniably trying to be a Bulgari Tiger clone. There's no two ways about it. Citruses, has that sweetness, has that like warm amberiness that's in the air right now, but it's, again, very citrus forward, has that ambroxan, has all the indicators of being a Bulgari Tiger clone. So let's get this on paper and see if there's any nuances. So right off the jump here, what I'm gonna say is the citruses are a little bit different than Al Khayyam Silver and Tarathi Blue. The grapefruit's there, but it's more grapefruit forward than those other two. Like there's ginger that's in the Al Khayyam Silver, and there's, I believe it's bergamot that's in the Afnan Tarathi Blue. This one, it has like a citrusy peel sort of vibe going on in the background, but it's the grapefruit that's coming forward the most. So of the three, I would say that I prefer the other two in terms of how the citruses come forward. This doesn't have as much personality as the other two. It's very nice citrus, but it's just doesn't have that effervescence or that kind of that strength that comes through, the very kind of sweet citrusy sort of vibes. It's very like rejuvenating and invigorating. This one's a little bit more subdued, a little bit more toned down. You do get that nice sweetness that's coming through with that. So it does have that ambroxan, that ambery sweetness that comes through, a little bit warm, so it reminds me a little bit more of the Tarathi Blue. It's not as fresh as the Al Khayyam Silver, but it does have that nice level of sweetness that plays with those citruses. So that gives it sort of its signature as being that Bulgari Tiger clone. So it very much is that DNA. Just the citruses, like I said, are a little bit different, but the sweetness is definitely there. That combination is definitely still there. Yeah, and as this is opening up, more and more of that amber is starting to come through. So it is getting a bit of that dry, sort of fuzzy texture. That's that warm style of sweetness that's coming through, but it is still playing with those citruses and the ambroxan. So it still has a little bit of that light, invigorating freshness that's going on, but it's starting to kind of have a contrast going between the two. Very, very nice. I do enjoy how that Bulgari Tiger kind of DNA plays against itself, and it's no different in this one. So it is very, very nice. Let's skip to the dry down, see what we're dealing with. All right, so we're back with the dry down of Rue Broca's Theoreme. Been just over an hour, let this settle down, do its thing, and this did actually change quite a bit. This really kind of came into its own a little bit more, and this does remind me a little bit more of the Al Khayyam Silver than it does of the Afnan Tarathi Blue, to be honest. It has more of that kind of uplifting, fresher style of sweetness that I like in Al Khayyam, whereas the Afnan Tarathi Blue I find has a little bit more of a warm sweetness that kind of comes through, a little bit more of that amber warmth that comes through with that fragrance, whereas this one, it still has that more of that kind of fresh vibe going on to it. The citruses almost somehow came forward a little bit more with this one in the dry down as well. Before, it was kind of subdued, it was kind of like everything was competing against itself, but now they've kind of fit into their proper roles, and it really does have the right level of sweetness from that ambroxan coming through. It has that citrusy sweetness. It has those citruses that are there. One thing it does lack compared to the other ones is the base isn't as kind of woody or has those spices that I get in the other two fragrances that I quite enjoy. They are very subtle in those other two. The Tarothi Blue is a little bit more kind of a woody spice style of dry down than the Al Khayyam, but this one doesn't have anywhere near those other two. So that is missing from this one. I'm not saying that's like a detriment to the fragrance overall, but they're really subtle differences. This is very much a Bulgari Tiger clone, and it is quite nice. I do enjoy this one. And I'm probably gonna wear this one today, actually. I haven't put this fragrance on today, and it is quite warm outside, so I think this one might fit the bill. In terms of performance, we'll see how this one does. This one's not blasting off, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll definitely do a full review on this one, because I know a lot of people are curious as to what I think, and I will kind of do some comparisons to the other two fragrances. Let you know which one I think is the best, but for 23 bucks, this is cheaper than the other two by a decent amount, so this might be your budget-friendly Bulgari clone, but we'll have to wait and see. But overall, pretty impressed with this one. That's Rue Broca's Theoreme. All right, so there you have it. That's 3 Rue Broca fragrances, my first impressions and unboxing. I think I went 3 for 3 on these. Really impressed with the Rue Broca line so far. Pending performance, we'll see. These kind of come across like they might be a little bit on the weak side, so I'm definitely have to get these on skin, and then I'll let you guys know how they're doing at that point. But overall, the scent profile on these are very nice. The quality is definitely there, and I think for between $18 and $23 is what I paid for each of these. Bang for your buck, they're pretty good fragrances. But I want to hear from you guys. What are some other Rue Broca fragrances that I need to check out, that I need to get in, and that I need to do a first impressions and unboxing for you guys? Comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love getting your different recommendations, all your hidden gems, taste and scent profiles. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.